You're gonna listen to a lot of things from the little guy today, because we're gonna play things from one to the other. But one thing that made me realize when they shut down the phone minutes ago was precisely. By the way, that's where my food went during the night. Likely when they came to assault me, they flipped the food bag and it was facing all the way down there into the ground. Presumably your ants could come in and other things. It didn't, because much like everything else they do, it fails. But it gives you show notice. Secondly, the other crime from the 13th keeps showcasing very important. It's a button all the time, and we forgot how much of a problem this was back in shit country. Again, another idea of shit people, like shit watching. Watching another man take a shit, but that reminded me of something very important, which is that little guy shuts down all the time. Not all the time, it's actually extremely rare, but it's hardly that rare. You see happening at several other occurrences, not only periodically during the day, whenever the phone is charging, as you saw these days, but you saw that being done to it as early as, well, a long time ago. Remember, as I said, there was this famous situation where I was passing an actual criminal over there in Silvano Gutierrez, and that was a proof of concept, just like this one, except that this one I think was more directed to me rather than to other criminals. That one was definitely directed to other criminals. And since I don't think you install many things on that phone, but again, you can run the thing inside when the last software was installed, and which ones were before that one. So this is a button that did be flipped, as everything else flipped. Okay, again, it's not for the MO, much like the one I'm describing right now. You probably won't know about that. So they shut down the phone. This is not something that. Oh, by the way, for the record, though, I mean, this is a very interesting argument, as you're gonna hear. But the fact of the matter is, you have a hardware defect that passed from this phone to this phone, and now it is on that phone. So different operational systems, different everything. The hardware defect that keeps passing from phone to phone. Because as you saw that has nothing to do with battery. As a matter of fact, as I was just telling you, the first time when it happened, I think, on one of the first, I don't know if it's the first time, I don't think it is. Because before, I think they do that during the night. They're just not doing that in times for me to see, is the thing. It has nothing to do with battery, it's just them shutting down the phone. Much like yesterday, they shut down the phone, deleted a full file, replaced that file with a halfway file. And that is not how any of this works. This, and you're gonna make sure that thing stays past today. You're gonna run out as soon as we move the things back. Same thing about this. Okay? Talk about that, I need to. Oh my tofu, it's not enough time to eat. You know what? We need as much as we can and stop if we have to and let you know when we do. So just to say, so that's basically it. You know what else to say? And so that is a major point, okay? Because what you see is, hey, this thing on this phone is doing things at all. Since before I started trying to solve this crime at the beginning, the very beginning. And now you're seeing how this thing also is already being done for a while. So again, the vulnerability is already there. The capability to do this was always there. It's just they were choosing not to for one reason or another. And they were actually doing it. They were doing that periodically. They were doing that during the night. They were doing that whenever they thought that they were not seen. Just as they started doing to be seen. Much like you saw doing now. Okay? None of this is new. As I said before, back in the day, there was this Maran incident in Maran Bakery, where every night there was supposedly people acting very weirdly close to me, and something else new would happen on the phone, and be like the internet should be slower than usual, which doesn't matter. If you have access to the system to slow down midway, it doesn't matter if it's slow by 10 or by 20, the vulnerability is already there. You're just choosing to do more or less, and you can do that remotely, as you do because they access the phone remotely, right? So the issue is, that's just acting. It's just more acting for you. Now, don't say that someone didn't come here. They did. Most likely. I cannot tell for sure. Also, by the way, interesting new features are unique enough that they are undistinguishable. They might be replicable, attempted replicable at least. Might have an issue with the weather, might have an issue with other things that might be difficult to do because, again, seeing a video, not a picture. But and again, as I said, I trust that the brightest minds enough to be able to catch on that. And unlike business shit, you would have an interest for smart people to be a part of catching the war criminals, especially in this scale. Not many causes related to this are so easy to solve. I mean, talk about equivalent to this, and if they go into this in moral grounds, they are very difficult to deal with and require political and position. There's no position here, this business shit, right? There's much international outreach as, well, we know what the main thing that they use again? And as for not saying they're the same group, I'm just saying that they have the equivalent same amount of influence, particularly amongst politicians in important countries. So, 10-0. As for well, let's be fair, I don't know, those guys are useful as a, tool. People talking about that, and I'm talking about other things. Not in the case for this, though. So, less than. In a way. And at the same time, they should have the full moral value, mostly on account of the things they do. Also, piss off a lot, which means that, But as I'm saying, I talk about companies, and companies are pragmatic, but actually going to have a lot of outreach to a lot of good people. They're just moral people that want to do the right thing, and, maybe like their forefathers did, maybe like, as I said, this is a case of potential versus de facto influence in the moment and the value of time and timing, right? Because at the end of the day, you have so much more than they ever could hope for. Through that, people can rely on have themselves so much more than they could imagine. The people that you can rely on are so many more that they can ever have at their disposition. Yes, I'm talking about the millions because, like I said, one of those cases where it's not quite the same thing. This is almost kind of like I said that technically we don't have to deal with human trafficking all the way through. So long as people generally believe you have a realistic chance to ending it, I mean, literally the leftovers of slavery. The last thing is the one thing that should exist to resemble full-blown slavery, right? Even more than that slavery in a way, or more brutal. So if you can realistically crush down, let's say, the rings, and that's a system. You cannot have a crime as kidnapping would happen, but as a crime, it's an individual felony. But because then you're dealing with basically trying to prevent crime itself. But as a system, as a ring, and if you can prove to people that realistically you can just end it, funding is not an issue anymore. Tons of people, for a variety of reasons, want to be known, or even to themselves, to tell their children that they help end what's left of the slave trade. So we're talking about billions. We're talking about like money stops being an issue. It takes a while to get there, but once you do, that's the point. Not obviously the same thing by any stretch, well, in the same scale. But my issue is, as far as the feeling of having people genuinely believing that they're part of something, that hell, you even see potential actually using the same feelings that they use that for potential reasons and potential reasoning that only works with potential. And we're gonna do that for the good guy reason, right? Again, that's why technology on the rest of the criminal is important, and why everything living up to a criminal standard is important. All the things they find ridiculously funny, how to repeating and emphasizing matter a lot. So, again, right, introduction to it.